I feel like fundraising is something that I just have such a love-hate relationship with. Like on the one hand, it's like such a great opportunity to just like get to share like what we're doing with so many brilliant people who've seen so many cool businesses and have such good advice and can really like support you. And then once they're invested in you, it's like, yeah, it's just like the absolute best mentorship, guidance, advisorship. At the end of the day, investors really just want to know like how much money you're going to make and when, and like what are those milestones, right? And so that was a huge learning curve for me to be like, okay, talk less about the things you're excited about and really talk more about the unit economics and sort of like how are we going to get to 100 million ARR in the next couple years and all of that. So I think like something that has helped me a lot is just like learning or like thinking through my identity and like thinking about funders that understand my identity. I come from a low income background. I'm a Latina founder, and that has sort of helped me build self-awareness around my like feelings around fundraising. But ultimately I think like the more you can just like relate to what the goals of the investors are and the funders are, then that really has been the kind of biggest key for just like succeeding in actually raising money. And then again, it's been really nice to have those relationships, and like my funder relationships are some of the ones that have been most just like ride or die supportive, patient with me as we've pivoted and tried a bunch of new things and moved through uncertainty, because like they just see it all the time. So it's definitely like good and bad, and I think it's like very much an individual experience. I'm curious to hear from you both, like what that's been like.
I actually think the hardest part for me is just keeping the emotions in check. I've done a lot of intense things, I guess, in my life, and this is just a different type of intense. Like I don't know how to describe it. Like it feels personal, it feels emotional. You're thinking like, oh my God, like I could have been consulting, I could have been doing this, and I'm doing this, and if I don't raise this, and this is what's going to happen. You know what I like? All of the like a lot of the fears, at least for me, and I know my fiance co-founder really comes throughout the process. But that was really hard at first, was the amount of no's that you get, and everybody says it. Like I went in thinking we're going to reach out to, for every 100 people we reach out to, 5 are going to say yes to a call, and maybe 1 is going to say yes to an investment. And that was very true, or maybe even tougher odds. And it does get exhausting, but like I literally had to start like listening to specific podcasts and doing all these things to like keep myself in check throughout the process, because it was a long process. So when you consider raising funding, besides all of the great advice that gave, I highly suggest thinking through what are you going to do to seriously like keep your mental health in check, and to try and separate you. Like, for example, Brianna is not Kokata, and I have to remind myself of this because it does feel like that most times. So I would suggest going in with strategies on a personal level. How are you going to do that? Because if you can't keep that in check, it's going to get pretty ugly pretty quick. So
it's supposed to be hard raising capital, and you kind of actually want it to be hard. Not in the moment, right? But if it were easy to raise, like that could be a huge problem for your business, because you would just spend with not having the right answers, with not ever having to fine tune anything, because you weren't forced to do so. So what I learned there was like you have to find a way to build your business where you can show traction. Like, you can't rely on being able to raise if you don't have some form of success, whether that's revenue or users or patent or whatever. And what I found was, and I feel, you spoke to this, if your business is like in early stage, like concept form, if someone is going to invest in you, it has more to do with you than your business. So like you really have to find investors who are maybe alums from your business school or have a similar background, because investors say all the time they invest in the person, and that like often means like, they have to be able to relate to you. What was hard about raising capital, particularly with angel investors, is they're all different. They all have different criteria, different goals. You can't look at their venture capital website and like see what their mission is, or what their fund size is, or what return they expect. And it's kind of like herding cats a little bit too, because you're pooling dollars together, like, and you almost have to generate urgency in a way, and it helps to be able to tell like to investors, like, we have these 5 people in, like, you're gonna miss out, like it actually works, and it feels weird doing it. But if you don't create the urgency, they're like, maybe I don't need to invest in this. So it's a lot of work to do all of that.